Hi, good morning. This is just a small addendum to the video that I just recorded. There was a comment I made about the DPS, and the DPS, for people that are not from Texas, it's the organization that handles the issuance of license plates, car registrations, driver's licenses. And also I mentioned the tax assessor collector office in Fort Bend County, which is the one that delivers the plates, right? And I said that they must be complicit in this thing, right? But I didn't elaborate. I mean, it's obvious, right? It's obvious because of the volume of license plates they use and how fast they change from switching to doing this experiment based on set theory, right? The new framework they're testing. So this requires collaboration and integration, right? But there's a couple of things that I was going to mention and I forgot to mention, and they are important. Okay, so I'm gonna do them. I'm gonna mention them in this video. So let me share my screen with you again. Okay. So one thing was about when I talked about the set theory and that it was nuclear because Agent Enrique Morales and Atreyu, both on the same evening, minutes apart, had a vehicle parked Moscow style outside their houses, allegedly to receive messages, right, from this illegal network. So that's one reason why it's nuclear. But the other reason is because when I went to the Tesla dealership on Monday, the 3 cars that they had in the service center, the 3 cars fall in this set. Like nobody knew that I was going to go to Tesla that day. I went there. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't look it up in Google. So to not give them any ideas, like where I was going. And I get there, and these 3 cars have the license plates that start in W and in M. And this was on Monday. And I recorded the cars on the Atreyus residence and the Enrique Morales residence last week. Right. So this is important because it shows that I knew about these. It's not like I had this idea when I saw these cars, right? I knew about these since 2 weeks ago, right? So of course, if I see a plate that matches, I will recognize it, right? And what's amazing to me to see is that these 3 vehicles have the same prefix, right? So WM, which matches the set I'm describing, and the plates are consecutive, right? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Tesla is directly corporatively in it, but at least the company that handled this registration for Tesla of these 3 vehicles has to be in it, right? Because they obviously control that prefix. There are not so many cars that start with WM in Texas, right? Because of logic, right? Like you only have something like 100,000 possibilities, right? And all of them fall, in my proximity. It's not. Well, not all of them, but like a large percentage, relatively speaking, right? Of all the possible cars that could potentially pass next to me, how is it possible that I have recorded more than 50 of these cars in just 2 weeks, right? It's not coincidental. So that's one reason why it's nuclear, because this is traceable to Tesla and the company that they use to register these 3 cars, right? So that's the second reason why it's nuclear. But going back to the conversation about the DPS, right? So the DPS and there's different ways that they can do it, right? With the registration company that does this for Tesla, which when I bought my Tesla was a company called TesGal, which Gal is a name marker for companies. So it could be sorry, TesGal, no. License plate Gal. I have to look it up in the system. I don't recall, but it's something that ends with Gal, G-A-L, like girl, right? Registration Gal. I can't recall what was the name. Let me see if I can find it. No, I have it in the system. I'll look it up. And it's also, I think it's even in the book. Right. So going back to the other thing, right, about the DPS, at this point, I'm thinking about like I have to check in the legal vaccine to see if I can file for a motion for a TRO against the DPS, because I mean this is ridiculous at this point, right? I mean they're harassing me using the DPS. And let me tell you what I mean. When I went to that, so if you go to that financial mini cluster, right? So a super cluster of these three houses where TL Global, the guy that says that applied knowledge is power, right? As I was doing that, right, from this neighborhood, which has only a few houses, and is right behind the religious cellular antenna of the Southstone Church. Oh, this is interesting. So this is interesting. Look, remember in the previous video, I talked about a school and it had a kind of a physical training group called F3, right? And I said, I think these people, and there's pictures of the people, right? In fact, let's do this here. So let's go there. 26714 Valley Side Drive, Katy, Texas, right? So if you go to this school, which is on the back of the Atreus house, it's called Stanley Elementary School in Katy, Texas. In the backyard, on the parking lot, sorry, you have this F3, the asylum, right? Physical fitness program. And I hypothesize these people have to be in it because this school and that parking lot particularly is an important intelligence point to watch Enriquez Morales' house, right? They're not going to let strangers do exercise in there. They're going to kick them out because, they could kick them out. They could say, this is school grounds. You cannot be here, right? Like, and I've seen this happen, right? Like years ago, I was doing one of these boot camps, right? And in one instance, we were in I can't recall what it was, and they kicked us out, right? So I've seen this happen. I know they can kick people out, but they don't kick them out because they're part of the network, right? And while they're doing exercises, they're really doing surveillance. Right? That's a hypothesis, of course. But now, and remember, it's called F3, and importantly, there's photos of these people, right? This could be good, right? Because they put the photos in there. But now, if you go to that other church, right, where TL Global is, right? In that church, which is also an important network point, and I know that because of the antenna and because of other things that I'm going to tell you in a second. But there's also another instance of this F3 crown with the three flags. See? So the three flags, and the flags are an important network marker, the flags in the street view photos, right? And this is described in the book. So at this point, what are the chances that in two important network observation and surveillance points, one of them having even the antenna, this F3 group physical fitness program is present, right? So their website is apparently link3.ee, right? Oh, and they have a way to support and donate via demo, which is traceable, right, to actual people with social security numbers. So this is good, right? Let's see how we can donate via demo, Vimo. So the address, the Vimo address is F as in Frank 3, number 3, Katy underscore the crown, right? So the person that maintains that account has to be part of the network, undoubtedly, because how is it possible that they are doing this physical program in 2 points that are heavily controlled by this network, right? They wouldn't. I mean, the probability of them being kicked out by one of the two that are supposedly separate entities is high, right? And they are not being kicked out, and they even have photos on Google Street View and Google Photos. So it's not looking good. Also, the presence of this F3 ties together the church and the school, right? Which is, the school is dangerous because it's controlled by the KDSD. And I invite people to watch the video I made about the school district, specifically the KDISD, months ago, right? It's an important infrastructure of this network. So I don't know. I think that's a mistake, like putting that out there. But anyhow, so the thing that I've been meaning to say, but I keep finding things, right? And I don't say it about the DPS, is that when I went to this street to look at this financial node that I found programmatically by using the signals that I described before to re-rank entities, as I'm doing this, they started bringing cars outside from this. This is a gated community, okay, and it has a gating here, so I could not get in. But they started bringing cars out to surveil me, right, to see what I was looking at. And all these cars, they brought out 7 cars in total. I'm talking about a space of maybe 6 minutes, right? 6 minutes. It was a very short period of time. In those 6 minutes, they brought out around 7 cars, of which 5 of them had the disabled person decal. I don't know what it's called, like it's like a piece of cardboard that hangs from the rear view mirror, and it's blue, and it has a disabled sign right on it. And this allows, it's like a permit. It's like a disabled person, temporary disabled person permit. But this is a statistical anomaly, because how is it possible that in this small, we can count the houses, right? I'm not going to count them here, but say that there's 6, I don't know, I would estimate probably 18, 30, maybe 35 houses, right? How is it possible that from somewhere around 35 houses, 5 vehicles of disabled people came out in 6 minutes? Like, it's just, they're using the disabled people sticker to do 2 things, right? To identify themselves among them, right? So these agents know visually that the ones that have the disabled person sticker is an important surveillance agent. And 2, to gain advantage, because this allowed them to park in front of the doors of the stores, right? And then they can get to the store before I do, right? If I have to buy food, they will bring one of these quote unquote disabled people and get advantage. And it's funny because you see, I mean, I've seen this and I have this recorded in the videos, right? You see them, how they rush to get to the parking spot and get out of the vehicle running to the store, which is ironic because they're supposedly disabled, right? And yes, I understand that maybe the sticker is because of the wife is disabled, right? Or somebody that they're not the driver, right? But how is it possible that in all these occurrences, all of these people that are driving these cars look very healthy? Some of them are weightlifters, right? I've seen weightlifters, and I have them recorded in video, getting out of trucks, tall trucks, right? Like to get it in those trucks, it takes physical effort, right? Of how tall they are. So they're weightlifters, right? Wearing gym clothes, and they're obviously weightlifters. And they come out of these tall trucks, and the truck has the disabled person sticker. I mean, it's an abuse, right? Any way you look at it. And I'm not saying this because of the harassment that they're doing with this, but also they're by doing this, the really disabled people cannot really park in those spaces because they're taking them all, right, with this thing. But the most important thing is that this shows collaboration of the tax assessor collector office, because those are the people that issue those temporary permits. And I've seen this in person when I've gone there. I've seen people applying for these permits, right? And I've seen this, like they go and say, oh, I fell and I cannot walk very well. Can I have one of these permits, right? And then I've seen them getting the permits like that. But I've read also the rules, and it says that you have to take a doctor's note, a certified doctor's note saying that you cannot walk or that you have difficulty walking. But I've seen also in person how is the process. And well, I didn't check the paperwork, but from what I've heard, it didn't sound to me like there was a doctor's note, that it was just a verbal statement and they got the sticker, right? So anyhow, it could be auditable if those doctor's notes are really in those files, right, or not. Yes. So but the F3 thing, right? I think it's a big. Oh, and they have a dashboard with the stats. I'm gonna request access. I'll think about it. Oh, and they have data. Okay, so you can see when they're gonna be there, right? So you can also use this to surveil, right? To see what's going on really there. Right. So the other thing, the last thing I want to mention, and this is important, right? I'm yet to make another session about this topic, but I'll mention this because it's just, it's a low-hanging fruit at this point, right? I don't know if people will remember that I mentioned that, my son was taken from the home on March 28, right? I think it's here somewhere. Let me see. Yeah, this one. This is interesting because this is one of the exhibits for many reasons, right? But one of the reasons is that this is one of the exhibits that Morgan Heibner introduced in the court proceedings, right? To call me crazy. And it's because, what this post says, right? So this post talks about the cameras that they have in the vehicles. And this is going to be a whole session I'm going to do at some point about this topic. Like, it's a very interesting topic. And it gives a lot of information about their operations. But, for time reasons, I'm not going to do it here. But the thing I want to mention is that, well, first, Morgan Heibner introduced this specific post as an exhibit, which tells me that this is something that they fear becoming public, right? And in this, I show an example of this camera of their car. This was the first time I was able to get inside of one of their cars, and I could see the mechanism of the camera from inside. And it's amazing, right? The technology that they have in that camera. Now, the story is, and you want to see why this is relevant, right? This car, when my former partner took the child, she told me that after, right? She told me all this after I was able to see the child. So 50 days after she took the child. So she told me that the first weeks she had the car put in a garage and turned off. So, quote unquote, so I could not track it. Like, I was not going to track it. I'm not them, right? I'm not tracking. I'm not in the business of tracking people illegally, right? But although technically it's my car, I could track it, right? If I want, I paid for that car, but I'm not gonna get there, right? But anyhow, so she told me that she asked that a friend of her from the gym lent her a car and that she was using, and that is this car that I'm showing in this photo, which is the exhibit that Morgan Heibner put in the court proceedings to call me crazy, right? Alongside the post about Robert Mueller's house and the power line, and the post about Phil Denning, right? And Daniel King Everett. So, but what's interesting that I want to mention here is not so much the camera, is, well, the plate, right? And this plate, it has well-known bigrams. So this is a network car because of the camera setup and because of the plate, right? But what's interesting is, oh, it's not here. Where is it? I saw it yesterday. 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, this one. So this is a photo of the car taken from the back, and you can see in the reflection of the window that that's me taking the photo, right? Now, what's interesting is the logo. You see, it says South Stone Church, and this was picked up by the pipeline, not by me. After I re-ranked the things, and with the religious cellular tower signal, right? The pipeline picked up that this car had this logo visible in the photo, and I mean, this is amazing, right? Like, if you see that church, is that one, right? Is the South Stone Church. What I'm saying is, the person that drives that car that was used to transport the child for weeks after he was taken from the home and has the surveillance cameras installed in the rear view mirror of the car and has the license plate matching the bigrams, well-known bigrams, that person that owns that car is a churchgoer to this important church that has the religious cellular antenna, and that is basically guarding and giving comms to TL Global and that financial supernode, right? So that ties the church, TL Global, directly to the taking of the child, because they provided the vehicle to transport him in a way that I could not find him, right? The idea of giving that car, providing that car, is that I could not track the Tesla, and I could not possibly locate the child using the Tesla app, right? So it was a way to keep the child secreted, right? And that car has that logo, right? And it's traceable, like it's traceable who is the person that you can see the logo of the church, right? Southstone Church, and you can compare it with this, right? Southstone Church, and you can see the logo, it's a crown, right? Which is a symbol in their organization as well. So it's not, it's hard evidence, right? Physical evidence of the connection between this church and the events surrounding the secreting of the child. And according to what I was told, I think I have the name of the person that supposedly gave the car somewhere. It's in the system for sure, but I don't know if I put it here. Let me see. No, it's in another post. I have to look in the system. I have the name, right? So she gave me the name of the friend from the gym that supposedly provided the car. I don't know if that's true, right? Could be that it's not true. It could be that that's not the person that provided the car. But the license plate, is traceable, right? Who was the person who owns this car, and what is this car parked all the time, right? Regularly. So those are important hints to make that connection of physical evidence, right? Because it's hard to dispute physical evidence, right? That's why it's important. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you on the next one.